Hi there, I'm Richard Hill, the host of eCom at One, and welcome to episode 166. Yep, it's 166 episodes in, and we've got an absolute cracker for you this week. Now, Thea Chippendale is somebody that we had on the podcast probably about just over 2 years ago. Now, we've only ever had 3 people on the podcast twice. Thea we class as one of our trusted partners and advisors, works with the team on a few projects, and she's been in this morning working with the team in the digital PR side of the business. Now, Thea has spent the last 5 years working on some of the biggest brands here in the UK with their digital PR. With an absolute wealth of e-commerce experience, Thea breaks down some simple strategies that you can implement in e-commerce, some of the pitfalls that you need to avoid, and she steps through the details of a very successful campaign here in the UK. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you're listening to this episode now. Let's head over to this fantastic episode. Hi and welcome. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am very good, thank you. I'm looking forward to this, Thea.
So am I.
It's been, I think, just over 2 years ago since you were first on the podcast. You've hit the, we've asked you to come back, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think 3 people have actually made it to the return ticket. But I think for those that maybe, I'm sure there's maybe 1 or 2 that haven't listened to the first episode. So I think it'd be good for you to kick off and introduce yourself and tell the listeners how you got into the world of PR.
Yeah, definitely. Well, just want to say thank you for having me on. This is a very more elaborate setup than what we had previously. But yeah, so I've been in the PR industry for just over 5 years now. And I had kind of maybe an unconventional route, I'm not really sure. But I got out of uni. I'd just done an advertising and marketing degree here in Lincoln. And I was approached by a lady called Carrie Rose, who I'd previously kind of been connected with before because I'd gone viral on Twitter and everything like that. And she basically came to me and said, I'm starting up a new agency with somebody. Would you be interested in coming? We've potentially got these new clients coming on board. And I was in a job working at a flooring company. And I was like, do I want to stay at a flooring company and talk about carpets and wood? Or do I want to potentially go somewhere where I can see it growing into an incredible agency? So yeah, I took that sort of jump. And I moved over to Rise at 7, and I was given the incredible opportunity at my age and my lack of experience to work on big clients like Misguided. I then moved on to look after along with other people. PrettyLittleThing, Look Fantastic, MyProtein. So many clients that probably I'm not doing it justice the amount of stuff that I did during my time at Rise at 7. But I spent my about 2.5 years there working on these clients, doing loads of different campaigns. And then I moved on to an agency in London called MediaVision, and they are quite a big agency in sort of their e-commerce. They also had loads of property clients. They had loads of financial clients as well. And they gave me the incredible opportunity of being able to lead my own department, which is where I was able to grow a team from me and another girl to 6 people. I was able to implement new strategies, new ways of working, loads of different things. And I was truly, I feel like every step of my career so far has just been an absolute blessing. To the point where now I'm now freelance. I work for myself, which means I get to cuddle my dog more.
Not today, though, while you're here with us.
I know, I miss her. I'm used to her just being by the desk and being able to
Maybe next time we'll arrange to bring her in with you.
Dog cuddles, yeah. She would definitely love being in the office with everyone.
Well, thanks for that. I think, so literally then you were spotted. Would that be the sort of initial spark?
Carrie basically had it in her mind that she wanted to get people on board that maybe not had it gone viral, but had that sort of experience. And because she hired me, and then she hired another guy called Mark Rofe, who was quite well known within the industry for doing silly things, but he was also a very interesting guy, and she hired him at the same time. And it was good kind of like pre-publicity, I would say, because obviously everybody knew my name, everybody knew Mark's name, and we started, and it kind of like, I'm not saying that we were like the people that rise to who they are.
Well, for both of you, I guess.
Yeah, Carrie and Ken Wright were definitely the big people of Rise at Seven, but I think it was a very smart move.
Yeah, we've had Ken Wright on. That was a very popular episode.
It's a popular man.
Isn't he just? So, obviously, 5 years-ish later on, so working in a very, how can I put it, an agency that's grown substantially, and then moving very specifically into an e-commerce specific agency. And obviously, our listeners, e-commerce stores. So obviously, you've got a nice breadth of experience there working in, we've had a good chat beforehand, working in a lot of different verticals, a lot of different industries, which I'm pretty sure if you're listening now, Thea would have worked in 95% of the industries that you guys are in. But I think digital PR and e-commerce is not something that really gets talked about a lot. I think it's becoming a lot more popular. And if you're in the industry like us, yes, a lot of agencies sort of maybe bolt it on.
Yeah.
But they're maybe not, experts at it, and they sort of attach it to the SEO side. But for those that are listening, what would you say is now about the sort of things that are working now with digital PR and e-commerce?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the time with these e-commerce brands, it's always been the big boys that have been the ones that have been doing it. But I think with the way that sort of the digital PR industry is changing, big players within the e-com industry have been using all these creative techniques that are not working as well in the industry anymore, which is giving the room within this industry for these smaller e-com clients to come forward and to be able to show their expertise and be able to use these digital PR techniques that they might have been too afraid of to use before. But for me, some of the key digital PR techniques that I think are coming out of what is happening within the press, within like journalism at the moment as well, are things like influencer collaborations. I think that's something that's really slept on in terms of digital PR techniques. I know when we used to work with big brands like PrettyLittleThing, or even smaller ones like Playful Promises, which were a lingerie brand, they came to us and said, we're thinking of doing this collaboration with so-and-so. And what we would do is we would work with that influencer to get some like exclusive interviews out and be able to get that into press, which probably wouldn't have got into press before if they hadn't have had us as well as that influencer to collaborate with them as well. So I do think that's probably a tactic that people don't think to use that much.
I think a lot of people think that digital PR is for the big brands, and that you have to have this, so maybe a little bit of a mystery around it. Like when you talk to a lot of e-com stores, right, what maybe starting a conversation or having a dialogue with them about doing some digital PR, they're like, it's a bit alien to them. They're like, well, what even is it? They just think PR as maybe a press release, or PR has been on Sky News, or whereas, there are things obviously that you can simplify and think, right, well, actually, as a brand, everyone's got something to say, really. Usually there's a spokesperson or two in a business, or there should be ideally, usually the founder or somebody influential in the business.
Well, I think as well as that, there has just been such a trend within the industry of having these big, creative, high-budget campaigns.
Yeah.
But I do think we've sort of changed as a world, as PRs, like I said, as journalists have changed. And they're just not interested in those big, high-budget creative campaigns anymore. They want to go back to the data-led, they want to go back to the thought leadership kind of PR strategies, the ones that don't cost as much money but can get equally as good results for these e-commerce brands. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's like thought leadership. I think it's, most people that are running a business, they have an opinion on life in their things that are aligned to their business. But to be able to take that opinion, and when something happens in, the news or something topical, let's say we're listening to this and it's the height of summer. I know it's not going to be when this launches, it's going to be almost the height of winter, but it's the height of summer, and you're a brand that sells barbecues, and you're a brand that sells grass fertilizer, and you're the brand that sells lawnmowers. You're the brand, well, of course,
all the journalists
and various publications, journalists, want coverage and content to do with, and that's the same no matter what industry you're in.
Yeah.
So for those guys that are maybe struggling to connect, okay, we've got a brilliant garden brand company and it's the height of the summer. What would you say to those guys about, getting in contact with people and getting that coverage? Some tips to do that. I think a lot of people they're struggling here. I think, well, we've literally got the best lawnmower brand, the best barbecue brand, or the best range of barbecues in the UK. We've got a 35-degree heat wave. Yeah. Well, hang on a minute. I'm sure we can connect the dots.
Honestly, things like that I think people try and overcomplicate it too much, and they try to be too promotional. So it's they ever too complicate everything. So it's the journalist is like, why the hell? What is this? Or they try to be too promotional and to sell the products too much that a journalist is like, what is this going to offer my readers? What is it going to make them want to share it or anything like that? So offering your expertise as a e-commerce client. So your barbecues, what's the best way to, I don't know, clean your barbecue with like the cheapest materials but get the best results kind of thing. That is the kind of
I think the best way to barbecue a steak would be a cracking one.
Yes. Or you've got a small space, how to
fit it.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Anything like that is very much, everybody thinks, oh, that's too simple. Nobody's going to want to listen to that. But you'd be surprised. All you need to do is go on the Express, go on the Mail Online, go on the Metro, look at everything that they're writing about. Yeah. And there is always something along those kind of lines that they're interested in. And even just looking at like journalist requests, what they're looking for will help to spark some ideas of where you can go within that industry as well.
And I guess if let's go back to the, barbecue outdoor, there'll be very specific publications in that industry. Whether that's the outdoorsman, if that's even a thing, I'm not sure, or the lawn care expert.
Some of the niche publications you end up falling into as a PR is ridiculous. And I wish...
What's the craziest one you've had that you can mention that's not a bit dodgy?
I was just about to say, I wish I'd got the list. There's loads of people that have put on like Twitter the random weird...
The rock collector, that's probably not even that weird, really. The sock collectors monthly, I don't know, is that one?
But yeah, there's definitely some very, very niche publications. So if you ever think that you can't get a piece of coverage or something, you can. It's there.
It's just, where it's like walking into W.H. Smith's back in the day, there would be like 500 yards of magazines. It's not obviously it's digital more so. Of course, W.H. Smith's is still there, and it's still, I still like going in there and you see the 16 magazines on fishing. You think, no way. Obviously fishing is very broad, but there's obviously publications and online communities and groups of people for anything and everything, pretty much, and the wilder, the wackier, you name it, it's out there, isn't it?
And there's still like online publications that are being built and everything like that. I know there's a new London one that is just being built at the moment. Like there's always going to be more that is going to come. So if it's not there, maybe make it.
So I guess, the guys that are listening now, you've got your store, you've been established for many years, you sell a specific range of things. What would you say about them having like a go-to list of journalists that are there, like 5, 6, 10 journalists that they're sort of keeping an eye on, building relationships with? Is that something you'd recommend?
Yeah, 100%. I think there's definitely the lost art of building journalist relationships in PR at the moment. I think there's so many agencies at the moment that are just relying on what we tend to call the spray and pray method, where they just literally just send press releases out to anybody and everyone without even thinking about whether that be relevant to them, without making it a bit more personalised. And I think it's definitely the lost art at the moment is people not spending that time connecting with the journalist, making sure that the journalist knows that you've researched them, why that press release would be really important to them, why they think that they should cover it. I think people are just, and I guess it's the pressure of the industry at the moment, the pressure of clients wanting results fast. But I think it's really important to sort of take that a step back and think about your end relationship with the journalist. Like, they are going to be there for whatever, but like they're going to be there for a long time. And
if they move, potentially, they're probably good chance they may move within that industry.
Yeah.
it's like we talk a lot about going to events in your industry, so, we, as a company, we go to a lot of e-commerce specific events, and we built our network, and, we always advise to e-com stores, if you're in, let's go back to the barbecues and the outdoor. Of course, I know there is the NEC in the UK, and obviously all around the world, there'll be events that are very specific to your industry. Going to those events, and at those events, there'll be different PR events, there'll be different socials and where you'll meet. If you like the movers and shakers in the industry, or whether that's journalists, whether that's owners of different networks, whether that's different content creators, you go back to the influencers. Of course, there's a whole array of different PR potential contacts. So it's putting time into those guys. But obviously those could be, in theory, friends and sort of commercial wins for the business for many, many years, whether they move on or... A lot of people stay in an industry for quite some time, if not forever. I
mean, I was saying to you guys earlier that when I used to work for my big eCom fashion clients, that I used to have a roster of 5 journalists that I knew would cover my story because I'd built that relationship and that trust with them. Some of them I still follow on Instagram now, that kind of thing. I think like, as much as I never got the chance to take a journalist out for drinks because we were in the middle of a pandemic, it would definitely something that I would have done in that sort of time. And I do think journalists kind of still expect that, but then is also a new breed of journalists in terms of the young ones that probably don't want that. So I think that you've got to sort of like balance it out a bit and see who is open to that, who actually wants to have a conversation with you, because sometimes journalists do just want to be like closed off and just get their job done as much as you want to get your job done.
I guess it's making it simple for them as well, isn't it? If they then go, okay, they come back to you and say, oh, could you comment on X, Y, and Z? If you wait 2 days to comment, they're probably going to think, well, they're not very responsive. So having things prepared on the understanding that you will get requests for things, and if you're prepared with some semi-stock, when I say stock answers, it's not, like they're boring, repetitive. You're prepared basically with, that's how we do it for our clients. We've got clients that will get requests from their industry, and we've got a series of responses that obviously their tone, we know they would sign that off, and it's about the speed and having something ready.
The quickest way you can ruin a relationship is by not being responsive, and even just over communicating sometimes is better than just like ignoring them for a bit whilst you're waiting to avoid like disappointment or anything like that. But over communicating is key.
That's usually lets down most, full stop, everything.
Anywhere.
Marketing, I think that's, there's nothing more frustrating on either end, like if we're working with clients and managing their PR, and we've had this amazing request, but we just need a bit more information from the client, i.e. you guys listening, but you're not responding. It's like, you missed the thing. There was a potential to be on the 6 o'clock news tonight, and now, it's now tomorrow. So,
well, I think it's key to understand as well the different timelines that journalists work on. I think there's kind of a perception that some journalists might be like, oh, it'll take me a week to do an article, but sometimes people want something literally within the couple of hours. The KPIs that journalists have got at the moment is just absolutely ridiculous. So they need to get things first, fast, quick, out the door.
Speed. So obviously you've worked on a lot of brands. We talked about a lot of brands before we hit record this morning. So maybe step through one of your favourite PR projects, brands that you work with, and the results that you got for them.
One of my favourite campaigns that I worked on was for a jewellery client at my old company, MediaVision, and it was for Abbott Lion, who do kind of like mid-range jewellery and like initial personalised jewellery as well. And it was a really simple campaign, so I don't know why it's my favourite one. It's just more, we'd kind of struggled a bit getting coverage for the first like month or so. So I kind of stripped it back a bit and thought, what can we be offering journalists right now? Because they're not interested in the product PR or the data-led PR that we're kind of doing. What else could they be interested in? So this is when I started to look more into maybe doing a bit more thought leadership for e-commerce clients. What we basically did is we worked with the client to put together some tips and tricks, hacks, cleaning hacks kind of thing, about easy ways for people to clean their jewellery at home. And all we did was we got some information from their product designer kind of person who had that expertise of the products and how best to look after them. And we put together this comment, as well as all of these different cleaning methods that they could do, from there were some really random ones like vinegar, all of that kind of stuff. And we basically pushed that out, and we were able to get coverage on the Mirror, Daily Mail, Daily Star, all of those big ones.
So that sounds like a really exciting campaign. So obviously, when I think about you just talking that through as a person that wears certain jewellery, just as a because I think that's half the problem is coming up with the ideas,
Yeah.
and obviously that particular client, jewellery client, selling different types of jewellery and fairly expensive things, I'm sure. But ultimately, that's the sort of thing that a lot of people, that's the sort of thing that a lot of people will have on their minds about the jewellery they've got at home that's been sat in the drawer for the last 3 years, cleaning it.
Yeah.
So in terms of success with that campaign then, how successful was it?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we got loads of links with it. Loads of social shares came from that, loads of obviously traffic from the publications that we got, which obviously meant that then there was some really incredible SEO benefits that came with that, which led to a massive increase in sales. This then led to a couple of award nominations. I think it's this thought leadership technique and tactics is kind of, like I said before, slept on a bit, because you have to think about it from a journalist perspective of they want their articles to rank as well. They want to be at the top. So if you can provide answers to commonly asked questions, commonly searched questions, then they're going to want to feature that. So that was kind of the reasoning behind doing this idea as well, is we wanted to make sure that journalists could hit the KPIs that they wanted to as well.
I think that gets missed, doesn't it? At the end of the day, you're working with journalists quite often in PR, but they've got to look good at the end of it, not just, right, we put the story live next. Obviously, they've got, like you say, they've got targets and deadlines and things to hit, but they wanted to be doing good work.
Yeah.
But from that one idea, that then leads on to, like you say, the other metrics that get hit, which tie quite nicely into sort of proving the benefit and the value of PR. Because I think this is a question in the agency that we get, and I know we've talked about it before, demonstrating the value and the return on the investment in digital PR.
Yeah.
And obviously there's various ways to track that, and building domain authority, which is a metric. It's not a monetary metric, but ultimately, if you're building the link profiles, you're building backlinks. It's a bit of a dirty word. We try not to drop the backlink word, on the podcast, but ultimately, if you're getting more mentions, but in a very authoritative publications, the big brands that we've all heard of, we've mentioned a couple already. And then from there, we talked about, I know off camera, we talked about, you get mentions on certain networks regionally, and then they get picked up nationally. So one relationship with one journalist in your town about the jewellery, for as an example, could lead to then the whole country or various other cities and towns. And then that led on to awards, and then that's something I know literally right now. We've got a couple of clients that we were having a discussion in-house, because we've got, I think it's 3 award dues in one night. And we're like, how are we going to cover some of the guys? Some of the guys are going to go on a jolly. No, I'll go. I'll bet you'll flipping go. Yeah.
Free alcohol.
But yeah, bonus. But obviously awards, quite often, awards, a bit like podcast. Obviously we're on a podcast now, awards, podcasting, that doesn't get talked about too much. But, our listeners, if you think about what awards could you enter in your industry in terms of, you must have done something pretty cool. Just setting up the business and getting to where you are now is a good story usually. And then if you've got it in a specific niche, then it's an award in a specific, whether it's that local. Quite often I think a lot of people start with their local business awards, and then it goes national, then it can go into, depending on size of business. But awards obviously can give you a big coverage as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's a good, what's the word, like, point of somebody completely impartial to your business, to your anything, is saying good work.
It's nice though, isn't it? And again, like I think for the team recognition, if you're listening, it's not, I'm sure it's not a one-man show at your organisation to be able to go and celebrate. I remember it sounds like I'm dropping our business here, but depths of COVID, and we're in Lincolnshire for the guys listening on sort of UK base, which is sort of central UK-ish, and we're 18 months into COVID, obviously shocking time really. In reality, we're crazy busy with eCom and everything. So pretty good commercially, but mentally it was just like everyone was pretty, how can I put it, shattered. I was going to say shack-baked. Edit it, don't care. But we were all pretty like drained, and we'd got nominated for Lincolnshire Tech Business of the Year, and we won it. And the lift that gave the business and the people, it was like, yes, everyone was buzzing. And it was like 10 days before Christmas. So we all broke up for Christmas. There's a couple of funny pictures of me on stage going, like really, everyone's like laughing on stage. Some really good photos of us on the stage, like 7 or 8 of the key guys in the agency. There was just a real lift for the business. Then in the new year, we obviously used that a lot in our marketing, in our pitching. So the guys, e-com stores, you win an award, you can leverage that on your About Us page, your story, your brand story, your email strategy.
It makes you more credible.
Yeah. I think that's a big thing, isn't it? I think, most industries, there's 100 people selling those lawnmowers we went back to, or the grass fertilizer, but to be able to stand out with that brand story, if you're not the £100 million high street brand and you're trying to compete, brand story is quite often a big lever. As the owner or the managers of a business, you can fairly low cost, because like awards, for example, they're usually free to enter. Obviously, if you then go somewhere, you may have got to buy a tuxedo or a red one for the night, or maybe that's not a bad investment actually. I think if you were to go and get a tuxedo on expenses, and go and enter 2 or 3 awards, maybe buy a tuxedo when you've been nominated. I just wanted to introduce you very quickly to our sponsors, Pricing. Now, Pricing is a competitive price tracking and monitoring software that can dynamically change a product's prices on all sales channels. They work with brands such as Samsung, Sony, Suzuki to increase their online revenue. Now, if you run Google Shopping, which I know a lot of you absolutely do, this software is absolutely key to accelerating profits. One of the reasons I recommend Pricing to my clients is because you can find out your competitors' pricing and stock availability all in one simple to understand dashboard, giving you a huge competitive advantage. Now, if you have any inquiries and questions about this software, or you're ready to get cracking, we have worked out a very, very special deal for our listeners where you can get a free month's trial and then 25% off for the first 3 months. Head to ecom1.com pricing and complete the inquiry form, and we will connect our listeners to the Pricing team. Right, let's head straight back to the episode. So, obviously you've worked on I know we mentioned you earlier before we hit record, you mentioned maybe 20 different brands you've worked on. Now, the guys that are listening, what are some of the things that, through your miles of experience and working on things, obviously not everything, I'm sure, hits. You might spend X amount of days working on something and it's like, you got pipped to the post, somebody else did that. And, what are some of the maybe 3 specific things that our guys need to avoid when it comes to digital PR?
I think a lot of e-commerce clients tend to just focus on one technique and only sort of put themselves in that kind of tiny little box of only being able to go out with products, stories. But I think the key thing for e-commerce clients is being able to pivot your strategies based on what's working well in the press, what you can offer as a brand. There might be 1 month where you've got a really exciting product that needs to come out, and that's a really good product PR story. There might be another month where you've put together this really incredible data story that's really relevant to that time of year, and then the next month you get nothing for something. So being able to have a bit of a mixture of strategies that you're going about, from product PR, having an always on reactive PR sort of strategy, because again, reactive PR is unpredictable. Some months you might get 5 things that you'd want to react on. You might then get nothing for 6 months.
That's very true,
So honestly, I think just having the variety of things that you can go out with is really key. And having clients, e-commerce clients, that are really open to that and willing to do that is really important.
Yeah, I think that's probably like half the problem with a lot of store owner, e-com sites, because they maybe don't know what they don't know. So you step through there, you've got product led. So what we're talking about there is, like we've mentioned a couple of times, the lawnmower guy, the barbecue guy, what's happening in the range, what's happening in the industry, what's happening around the products. And then you've got the reactive, something happens out there, and you're the voice of authority in that industry. You're getting called upon to say, have you got an opinion on this freak weather that we're having in the summer? And then we've talked about, say, data-led campaigns, mapping the British summertime over the last 15 years, turning it into some interactive craziness, and then showing the hottest places in on a map around the UK, and then Manchester's the best, and no, Brighton.
Honestly, the best thing to do with a data-led PR campaign is pit the cities against each other, because they love to drag each other down. I'm the best, I'm the best, but that's all they do.
Yeah, and then you can take that that sort of UK map and then reduce it into, say, a county, and then you can say which is the X town in that county, which is something we did. We did the whole of the UK, then we said which is the most X in Lincolnshire, and there's about 15 key cities in Lincolnshire that we want.
They love to talk about themselves. So everywhere loves to talk about themselves.
And then it gets people chatting on social. Oh no, that's not right. Oh it's the next thing you know, thousands, tens of thousands of comments, shares, likes, etc. And then you've got that, which we talked about at the beginning, which crosses over into a couple, having that database of journalists that you can reach out to for, maybe that award entry, the local awards, the national awards, the industry-specific awards, going to conferences, meeting more people that will then build your journalists, your influencers. So there's maybe 5 or 6 things in the last 4 minutes there. Yeah. But I think maybe, like you say, a lot of people do 1 or 2, and that might be down to capacity, or it might be down to the fact they just don't know. But I think, I'd say pause the podcast right now, rewind 5 minutes, think how are we gonna make that list of 5 journalists in the lawnmower? How are we gonna do the data-led thing? Where are we gonna get the data from? Start thrashing that out with the team
as well. These people that have these businesses need to think about the different things that you can get from each of these strategies. So, for example, product PR, increase your sales, your traffic, but you might only just get affiliate links from that, which is obviously not as beneficial for SEO. Data-led, you're not exactly selling a product, but you are going to be able to get those really good links. You're going to be able to get those global links, regional links. You have loads of different angles. Thought leadership, you can get on some really good nationals with that, and you're offering your expertise, you're establishing yourself as a thought leader. Reactive PR, you're showing that you've got access to this data, you're putting yourself into a really interesting and really sort of trend-worthy conversation. So there's always the benefits of each one of those. So blending them together and having the ability to have the strategies that can incorporate each one of these is so crucial, in my opinion.
Yeah, a good mix. Yeah,
definitely.
That's sort of a bit like marketing as a whole, isn't it? If you're just relying on paid ads, for example, and then there's an issue with Google or Facebook changed the rules again for the 14th time this year. But if you've got a nice spread, 3, 4, 5, 6 different strategies under your PR umbrella, like you say, you can be doing reactive, but then nothing comes to you for 3 months. Nothing to react to, if that's all you do with your 3 or 4 contacts, but they don't come to you for anything. Whereas you could have won an award by then, or you could have been featured in a product magazine, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's assume our listeners have now got a fresh ump for PR. They've gone out there,
everybody wants to be in digital PR now. I've created the next generation.
They're like inspired. They've got award entries. They've bought the tuxedo. But then it's about measuring success. This is what really, as an agency and as a podcast, we're very much down to the numbers we try to be. And I think there was always a lot of conversation in PR about sort of proving its worth. So, what would you say about measuring success when it comes to digital PR?
So I might annoy some people with this comment, but I feel like in PR, we tend to focus a lot on the links.
Yeah.
And obviously that is our main game here is we want coverage and we want links. But especially for e-commerce PR, what we're doing as well is we're creating awareness, we're creating sales, we're creating traffic, we're creating all of that stuff with each of the strategies that we're doing. So being able to use those as KPIs as well as not just how many links you're getting, because you could get 100 links on somewhere and get nothing through.
Yeah.
But you get one link on that really, really good publication and you've made £100,000 in sales or something like that. So I think having that versatility in terms of what kind of KPIs you have for different strategies even is really important.
So potentially have like you say, it's different for different things, but having maybe a backlink, using the word again, apologies, a backlink KPI.
Yeah.
But ultimately, there's a number, and you do see these people. Oh yeah, we got over 500 links for that. You're like, but are they really?
Yeah.
Whereas if you, going back to our lawnmower summer example, if you got, 2 links from, the lawnmower monthly, I don't even know if that's a thing.
Probably.
Where they've got, 500,000 readers that are obsessed with their lawn that all spend $2,000 a year on their lawnmower and their fertilizer. Well, hang on a minute, that's a bit better than, having a link in. Some other thing that's absolutely unrelated, but it's, people reporting on the right kind of links.
Yeah.
Maybe, reporting on, on links as a whole, but just not get too sidelined and blinded by these big numbers.
Yeah.
So reporting on links, reporting on potential increase in referral traffic from different sources.
Yeah.
So it's been great having you back on. Like I say, it's 2 years since you were first on. Great to hear about the journey over the last couple of years, and we're going to get you back on in a couple more years, I think.
See where we're at.
Thea is a sort of a trusted partner, friend of the agency, so it's great to have you in the office and coming in to see us. But crystal ball time, really. The next 12 months, what do you think our listeners should be sort of focused on? What are the things that they're going to get the best sort of bang for their buck on?
Yeah. Personally, I think we're going to see a bit of a, not death, but like a bit of a reduction in terms of people using Google search trend data for like their reactive, data-led kind of campaigns, using that as a source. And I think we're going to move over to social media being the key place for that. So TikTok, everything like that. I mean, there's been so many conversations on social media about the fact that like Gen Z and younger users are now using TikTok as their search engine over like us probably using Google as ours. And I know even me, I keep looking at, I'm like, oh, what hairstyle shall I wear today on TikTok? Because it's a visuals kind of journey that you're going on. And I'd rather see somebody do a hairstyle on a video than I would read about what hairstyle to do.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that users are going to be using TikTok a lot more, which means we're going to get so much more data from places like TikTok. And if you think about how quick TikTok has grown, there can be something that we didn't even see coming that's going to grow in the next 12 months in terms of social media. So I think moving away from that sort of the Google search trends kind of thing that we often see. I mean, you just need to look into the press at the moment, and all of these clients are using TikTok search data over Google search data at the moment. So that's how I see things.
I totally agree, and I think if you're listening, it's where the emerging, emerging volume, if we want to go there, virgin volume. You look at TikTok and you think, this video's had 3 million flipping views.
Every
and you go to keyword tool in Google, there's like 0 searches a month. Well, obviously it's not true. But unfortunately, some tools are just a bit out of, they're not taking their data from a lot of the social media platforms. So TikTok trends and TikTok, we talked off camera beforehand about potentially building a dashboard, which is something, in our agency we're working on for, a specific industry. So if you're listening and you're in the lawnmower niche, if I keep going back to that, what is happening in your niche, how can you build a dashboard that is pulling in all that, TikTok, whether that's TikTok trends, other social media trends that are happening. If there's a video with 5,000 or whatever it may be, 50,000, 5 million views to do with cutting your lawn to a certain level, but then if you were to jump on that trend and do something with that, create some content around that, I'm sure there's going to be some interest if there's that many on TikTok. Yeah.
Or you can just be like me and not build a dashboard and just spend all of your time on TikTok.
Don't do that. So thanks for coming on the show. We always like to end every episode with a book recommendation. Do you have a book to recommend to our listeners and viewers?
So I don't have a book that's necessarily related to digital PR.
That's fine.
But it's a book that I keep trying to force on people.
Oh.
So I recently spoke at Brighton and it was what I talked about at the end of my sort of slides. And it's a book called Radical Candor. I don't know if anybody's heard of it, but it's a really good book about how to be a really great leader and a great manager. And it's when I moved into a leadership role, I sort of found myself struggling with to find places to understand how to be a better manager, how to lead people. And basically the woman is incredible. Like, she was some high up woman at like Google or something like that. And she basically is able to relate her experiences there to like problems that everybody as a leader and a manager faces, and literally gives like step by step like guides to do things. And it's just a really, really interesting book. I especially really like it when books like can relate to personal experiences rather than just being like, yeah, do this.
Yeah, very real. Yeah. Well, thanks for that. I'll get that on the list. We'll hook that up on the show notes, the book. So for those that want to find out more about you, Thea, best way to connect with you and potentially want to work with you and find out more about what you do, what's the best way to do that?
I mean, look me up on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, but you can also find me at my website, which is tlcfreelance.com. And I also send out a newsletter every week that goes through all of the reactive, creative, data-led campaigns that I've seen in the week. And I also talk to industry experts each week about what PRs can be looking for. So, yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. I look forward to getting you on the third time for that. It'll be almost a 5-year stretch.
I know.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are listening to this podcast. You're always the first to know when a new episode is released. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you on the next one.